332 A right intention. Presence of God, O God, remove from my heart all secondary intentions and all movements of self-love, so that I may seek only your glory. Meditation. Difficulties encountered in the apostolate often arise because apostolic activity is not exercised under conditions which are required by its very nature, conditions which are indispensable if this activity is to be transformed into an intense exercise of the spiritual life. There is question here of a certain disorder, arising from the more or less natural motives which insinuate themselves into the work and cause it to descend from the supernatural to the natural level. Thus it becomes an occasion for deviation and lukewarmness in the interior life, which in turn, makes the soul feel dissatisfied and uneasy. Pope Pius XII, in his Motu Proprio Primo Feliciter, expressed very clearly the necessary conditions for a holy activity. He said, the apostolate should always be exercised in a saintly manner, with such purity of intention, such interior union with God, such generous forgetfulness and abnegation of self, and with so great a love for souls that the apostolate flows from the interior spirit which informs it and at the same time nourishes and renews the same spirit. Examining our apostolate in the light of these words, we shall be able to detect its weak points, to discover the defects to be avoided and the remedies to be applied. There are 4 conditions proposed: purity of intention, union with God, self-abnegation, love for souls. They are so important that while guaranteeing a fruitful apostolate, they constitute an efficacious means of spiritual progress. Striving to realize them, we shall simultaneously raise the level of our activity and of our interior life. Let us first consider purity of intention. If no one can serve God and mammon, Mt 6,24, much less can the apostle give himself to apostolic works with the double intention of serving God and his own self-love, of pleasing God and the world, of being zealous for the interests of souls and for his own personal interests. Strength, peace, and life come from unity. Dividing one's forces, especially in the realm of the spirit, can only lead to weakness, conflict, and ultimately to death. An apostle whose heart is torn between opposing intentions will look in vain for peace in his work. He will always be disturbed and dissatisfied. 2. There can be a lack of right intention in a way that easily escapes one's notice. It may be so subtle that to a distracted soul, it passes wholly unobserved. In order to discover the least secondary intentions which, like little foxes, creep in secretly to destroy apostolic activity, an atmosphere of recollection and prayer is necessary. In his moments of quiet at the feet of our Lord, the apostle will discover that often, in the course of his daily occupations, he loses sight of the supernatural end which should animate his activity, and that in its place secondary ends appear, becoming the immediate motive of many of his decisions and acts. This means that his intention has not remained directed solely toward God and souls, but has often deviated under the influence of self-love. Sometimes it is a question of seeking praise and glory, more or less unconsciously, or it may be preoccupations concerning his personal advantage or material interests, keeping a position, obtaining some promotion, being favored by superiors, or selected for more attractive or remunerative work. In short, the apostle should realize that, side by side with his love for God and souls, there is still much self-love and egoism. This is not a very consoling picture, but he should not be discouraged by it. Instead, he should humbly recognize his own misery and thank God who has revealed it to him in order that he may correct it. On the other hand, he must not think that everything he does is merely the fruit of pride. No, when a person has consecrated himself to the apostolate with a sincere desire of doing God's will and winning other hearts for him, he should acknowledge that he is animated by love for God and souls, but that his love is not strong enough yet to triumph completely over human passions. Therefore, the apostle should not give up the struggle against the manifestations of self-love, no matter how trivial. He must not yield to them under the pretext that they are natural tendencies, but must correct, mortify, repress, and cut them off without pity, and must always rectify his intentions. A long, thorough purification is necessary to overcome completely the dualism between God and self, between love for souls and love of self. The apostle must ask our Lord for the grace of this total purification and dispose himself to receive it, profiting by every occasion for detachment, renunciation, sacrifice, and humiliation, which apostolic activity offers in abundance to all who seriously dedicate themselves to it. If the apostle does this, he will find in his work an excellent means of spiritual progress, and instead of becoming entangled in the dangers which abound in external activity when self-love is not mortified, he will be purified by the very exercise of his apostolate. Colloquy. When I desire to pray or work for the good of others, I must first of all turn the eyes of my mind toward you, O eternal light, and to your splendor, so that you will give me light, strengthen my spirit, and help me to withdraw, as much as possible, from external things in order to turn wholly toward that which is interior. Grant that I may see only the interior man in my neighbor, paying attention to the exterior only insofar as it helps the interior, so that everything else will be put aside as vanity and I may not be attracted by vain things. O my God, grant that I may be drawn to the apostolate, to prayer, and to giving good example, not by vainglory, ambition, human complacency, or any worldly interest, but only by the desire to save souls. You alone, O my crucified Christ, do I wish to seek. I want to inebriate souls with your blood, and not with vain curiosities, in order that they may desire you alone. I would say to each one of them, I know only Jesus Christ and Him crucified. Hence I not only have no desire of worldly advantages or of being pleasing to men, I do not even judge myself as knowing anyone or anything but you, Christ crucified. O Lord, inebriate me so thoroughly with your love that, if anything else but you presents itself to my sight or taste, to my hearing or any other sense, I shall consider it as nothing, so much so that I shall not take my delight, nor my glory, nor my rest except in your precious blood, toward which I desire to be completely turned. Grant that my eyes may not be filled with the things of earth, but only with your sufferings. Grant that my mouth may not be filled with vain words, but with what concerns your passion, and may it be the same with all my other senses. Cf. Saint Bonaventure.